now joined by Alex, who is a Newcastle fan. How you doing, Alex?
All right, mate. How's it going?
Not bad, pal. Not bad at all. Obviously, the viewers can hear that you are not a Geordie.
Yeah, no. Unfortunately, not no.
So what's the history of you becoming a Newcastle fan?
Well, the only one and only watching Shearer growing up.
What's your own Shearer?
Yeah. So when you're watching football as a kid, everyone has the boyhood hero, don't they, that you follow, and Shearer were mine.
That's fair enough. What's your take on the current situation in regards to the club?
Well, we all know as it stands until these new guys take over, we have the biggest arsehole in football currently in charge. I don't think you could ever meet a bigger tosser, if I'm honest with you, than Mike Ashley. We're all fingers crossed. I know everyone and all the links and everything are stating that it's a done deal for the new owners. But again, with Mike Ashley on this, you never know what can happen.
I mean, for me, there's too much money in the deal for it not to go through. I know people are citing to say government should step in and stop the deal and all the rest of it, but I reckon it's other clubs and other fans saying if Newcastle gets the money behind them, for me it's the biggest sleeping giant in world football. And if obviously if there's money in if there's money in it, then it's gonna go, you know.
Yeah, definitely. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you now. Yeah.
Sorry, hang on, it's coming back up now. There you go.
Yeah, I got you now. Yeah.
Listen, I mean the money that's being thrown around at the minute for the club is, I don't think anyone can compete. But it's not going to be something that'll happen overnight. You know, you've got to be realistic. I mean, it's great being linked with, you know, whatever the paper's saying, Edison, Cavani, Gareth Bale, you know, Allegri, Pochettino. Those things are not going to happen overnight. Do you know what I mean? We've got to build steady and then start bringing in the names that, you know, can take you to domination.
I mean, obviously, but I mean, for me, it's not a case of if the takeover is going to happen. I think it's a case of when. I mean, obviously, the transfer window coming up. Who's your ideal signings? Who do you get rid of? Who would you like to see through the door?
Well, listen, you know, you get rid of half the squad, don't you? I mean, first and foremost, we need the back four is pretty decent. Well, the back five that we've been playing is pretty decent. I think we've got one of the cheapest back five in the Premier League, and probably one of the, I wouldn't say the best, but they're not bad. I mean, you've got to look in the midfield and up front. We've certainly got no goals. You know, Jolinton 40 million. I'm not being funny, mate. I'm bloody 17 stone heavier than I was playing, and I could probably still do a better job than that. You know, it's horrendous. So you've got to be looking. I mean, the papers and everyone are saying Edison Cavani, the Mbappe's. Of course, they're going to be linked when you've got this sort of money being thrown into a club. They're not going to join. They will do it. I'm not saying now they will, but you know, eventually they will. There's a good chance they will do because the wages will be loose change to these guys by the sounds of it. But you in this transfer window, I'd fire Jolinton off, Christian Atsu. And I'd be looking at players like Origi from Liverpool, you know, realistic targets that you think, you know what, we can afford to give him 80, 90 grand a week. And he'll do your job.
Yeah. What about like Callum Wilson from Bournemouth?
Yeah, another top signing, English lad as well. He knows the Premier League. The only thing is he's got the injury issues, but it always seems to be, listen, over the years for Newcastle, we've always attracted big name players. All right, not so at the minute because of the way the club's run, and I think everyone's cottoned on to the way Ashley runs it. In the clauses of the contracts, everything. There's no bonuses apart from a relegation bonus. Who's going to want to join an unambitious club? Do you know what I mean? What's the point?
Yeah.
You look over the years at the players we've attracted, and I don't know what it is, but the Geordie nightlife certainly stops them being that big name. So, we'll see what happens. Come the money.
I mean, obviously, like I say, for me, it's when the takeover is going to happen. Obviously, Steve Bruce, he's your current manager. It's a bit of, I mean, it's a bit unfortunate, obviously, in terms of from his point of view, that the takeover was happening, because obviously with new owners coming in, they'll want their own manager,
Yeah,
they'll want their own structure. I can't see him surviving. Can you?
no. To be honest, I've never been a fan of Steve Bruce. One, he's United bred, and I know he's a Geordie, but he's United bred. Managed the Mackhams. I mean, you couldn't get any worse to take over Newcastle, if I'm honest with you. You're fucking you're clenching at straws there. But listen, he's done a good job. I'll give him credit. He's done a decent job. He's kept us, above the relegation zone. We did have a chance at Europe for the start of the season. Things were going all right. We knew it weren't going to last. Because obviously we've only got one starting 11. Not much you can look at the bench to say, yeah, do you know what? If he's injured or, you want to change something, mixed in. There's nothing there. And he's worked well with what he's had. I mean, it weren't my first choice, but to be honest with you, half the managers under Mike Ashley, I don't think there are any of the Geordie choices. Steve McLaren, I think the only decent one under the Fat Cockney one is Alan Pardew, the only one who really took us into Europe. On a cheap squad, which worked at the time. But listen, if you're going to move forward and you're throwing that sort of money at the club, you need someone who knows the game, can bring in the names, and can handle them really.
Obviously, say for example, Steve Bruce obviously got sacked, and then they brought in their own structure. Who could you realistically see being football director, technical director? I mean, because obviously you need someone to be there to understand the league and not just throw fucking money at it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, we could sit here and mention names all day. I think basically, I mean, when you look at every day the news reports that are coming through, I don't think they're going to get anyone who's been involved in the club involved. I mean, I'd like to see someone like Asprilla, maybe Nikos Dabizas. They know the club, they know what it's worth. They've been around the game. All right, Asprilla not so, because he's not been in management as much, but Dabizas, I know he's a name been linked sort of thing to step up into the gods, if you like, and he knows the club. He's been with us. He had a decent career with us. He wasn't a big name, but he made himself a name. Because he played well for us. But they're looking at their own sort of thing. People you've never even heard of. I think Amanda Staveley's going to be one of them, and her husband, and one of the bloody Reuben brothers, who apparently is a director at Queen's Park Rangers. So he'll kind of know the game, but I don't think he'll know sort of when you're throwing the serious money.
Yeah,
What you're going to do with it, you know what I mean? And in terms of a manager as well, you've got to be realistic in terms of a target. Yeah, you got Pochettino, he's out of work. Allegri, he's out of work. But the Newcastle's, we're not in Europe. We're not fighting for the top 10. The squad needs a massive overhaul, and that's going to take 3-4 years. So these names aren't going to come in because it's a lot of work. They like to, these kind of managers like it already built for them, and then they make a name. Pep Guardiola, them sort of guys. That's the deal that they're looking at in the years to come. But currently, I quite like. There's two managers, Sean Dyche and Eddie Howe. Mainly Eddie Howe, if I'm honest with you. I think the jobs he's done with Bournemouth, I think it's phenomenal on a low budget. He's pretty much kept it all homegrown in talent. So again, I think he'd be someone decent to start the build off and see how it goes.
Yeah, and the style of football helps as well, doesn't it? Really?
Yeah, listen. As a Newcastle fan, and I think they'll all agree with me. We're not after winning trophies every season, because it doesn't work like that. All we want to see is entertaining football. If we get beat 5-4 and we've had a go of it, do you know what? We'll go home and we're happy.
Yeah.
But it's when when you're sitting at home and you're watching it and you're watching the game, and you're playing Watford at home, and you're playing counter-attacking football, and you think, Jesus, what's gone wrong here? The rock bottom. We're at home. There's 52,000 behind them, and we've got 5 at the back and 2 defensive midfielders. You think, hang on, what's going on? you couldn't get more boring. I mean, I stopped going to Newcastle for that reason, because it's it's hell of a hike, and two, you get nothing out of it. Many a time I've been down. Hull City, I remember going down against Hull City, you know, your home, packed crowd, decent squad out. We got beat 2-0 playing defensive football, and you think, fucking hell, I'm not doing this anymore. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
Half kick off as well, so you're not
yeah,
getting back till fucking 12 at night.
yeah,
Not worth it. Not
yeah,
worth
yeah.
it.
I mean, every time I think of Newcastle, I don't even think recent memories. I think the one that sticks out all the time, and God rest his soul, Chet Tiote's equaliser
Oh,
against Arsenal, four apiece.
what a goal.
That's what I hark back to in terms of Newcastle. Do you know what I mean? And it's like I'm used to seeing Lauren Robert. I'm used to seeing David Ginola. I'm used to
Yeah,
seeing Emre. I'm used to seeing Shearer. You know what I mean? And
yeah.
Newcastle's lost its way in its last what 8 years, 7 8 years.
Yeah, I mean the whole
Um,
northeast has the whole of northeast has. I think the funding for the clubs, you know, on the neighbours as well, Sunderland and Middlesbrough. We've this last 10 years, I think we've struggled any of us to bring something half decent in to give the fans something to sing about. But you know, you look at Sunderland. I mean, it is funny, and I do laugh about it. You know, when they go into fucking Rochdale on a Saturday, I mean, you couldn't find anything. You know,
yeah,
but you feel sorry because the big clubs. You know, they've got a huge following. And when
mm,
you, again, when you look at Sunderland, I mean, they played at Rochdale. I went to the game. I think they brought something like 6,000 fans with them in a League
yeah,
One Saturday afternoon.
yeah,
So
yeah,
it shows how big the following is.
yeah,
And it's the same for Newcastle, you know, home away, it doesn't matter where they are. There's thousands and thousands that will follow. And if they're not in the ground, they're outside the stadiums in the boozers.
mm,
And they've just got enough, there's just nothing there for them anymore. Like you said, you
mm,
know, Cecchiotte, that sort of team, once that disappeared,
yeah,
killed
yeah,
Newcastle completely.
yeah. Yeah, it was crazy times. Yeah, I could, with this takeover, I can only refer back to when we got taken over in 2008. You know,
Yeah,
deadline day deal for Rubinho, and he just came into a team of nobodies. Do you know what I mean? And
yeah.
it was just crazy. Like, and then obviously 4 years later we got that Aguero goal. So for a Newcastle perspective, I think you're right. 3 to 4 years. I think you'll be knocking on the door.
Yeah, yeah. Listen, like I said, 3 4 years. I'd start maybe saying, you know, it's going to sound daft this, but you know, you start looking like serious contenders for a Europa spot. That you know, whether that's Europa League, the Champions League, FA
Yeah,
Cup, maybe League Cup. I mean, the Premier League, it's an high demand. You know, look how long it took Liverpool and you guys to build something dominant.
mm,
That could be 4 or 5 years off before we start talking
yeah,
about Premier League challenges. Plus, it all depends how it goes. We've been there before. You know, what were they called? BZG. 12 months ago, he was the fucking richest man in the world, and they were
yeah,
buying us. That
yeah,
fell through. I mean, until them keys are handed over and they stood there, you know, on the fucking pitch.
yeah. I mean, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, like I say, the person involved buying the club is a cousin of the owner of City. So,
yeah,
and the City owners actually sat down with your man in charge at the minute, looking to buy the club a few years back, but I think something happened and it just didn't go through. So obviously they've obviously built City up. And City, I mean, obviously we're getting slapped on the wrist by fucking UEFA or whatever, but
yeah.
they built it to a good place now. You know, the training ground, you see the facilities. So obviously they thought, well, we can use our sort of reach to go and buy Newcastle. And like I said to you, for me, it's the sleeping giant of world football.
It's between us and Leeds, in it, basically. Yeah. You know,
Um,
Leeds are another one. I know down here they're not going to admit that, but listen,
yeah,
Leeds are a huge club and a
yeah,
massive following, and you know they're another sleeping giant. And if
yeah,
it wasn't to be us, they'd be looking at someone like that.
yeah,
But yeah, we'll see. We'll see what
yeah.
happens. I mean, I read something the other day. I think the City owner himself are worth 26 or 25 billion
Mm,
compared to this geezer. That's coming in for 260 billion. So you think, well,
yeah,
now what?
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
that's. But the funny thing about it was, we're finally almost there for contracts to change, and the fucking oil prices crashed. I mean, you couldn't write that shit, could you?
Yeah,
So maybe that's a bit of an hold up at the minute. Who knows? Because apparently
yeah,
Mike Ashley wanted to announce it last week that it was done. Apparently he's over in America. He should fucking stay there, if I'm honest with you. I think, to be honest with you, I think the Geordies will fucking help him move out if he goes up free of charge. But yeah, it's silly money.
Am I right in saying Newcastle are the only club in the Premier League to still have furlough on the staff?
Well, what do you expect with a test as an owner? I mean, fucking hell, he's apparently in the
Oh no, I think it's Tottenham as well. I think
No,
might be Tottenham as well. They reversed it, right?
Yeah, they reversed it. I mean, our owner, even more laughable. This season, we don't know whether it's going to finish or what's going to happen to it until it's all announced and sorted, which is fair enough. It's safety first. But he's already fucking took the money out for season tickets next year, where every other club hasn't. And there was a big kick-off about that. He's asked the Bank of England to bail his Fraser Group out, and they've declined him. He's furloughed the staff, and apparently he's got 300 million coming for the buyout of this. So I wouldn't trust that fucker as far as you could throw him.
Unbelievable, eh?
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
I mean, this is a guy over COVID-19 that thought Sports Direct were fucking key workers. No offense to the staff, it's fantastic they were still willing to graft, but I mean, come on. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Obviously, it's just come out that the Dutch league's been cancelled, null and void. Do you reckon it could happen with us?
Too much money involved. Too much money. I mean, you look at the Dutch league. Listen, it's got some great teams in it and some fucking great players. You know, they're the nurture for the big teams in Europe. But when you look at the Premier League and the TV rights, you know, even us, I think we got 120 million and we're hardly on the fucking thing. Do you know what I mean? So you can only imagine what you guys are getting, Liverpool, United, Chelsea. There's no way they'd pull the plug. I hope not anyway, because, you know, you want a bit of football through this. It's fucking hard enough as it is, isn't it?
I know. I mean, there's a lot of stick about where it's going to be played behind closed doors and all the rest of it, and I'm just think, well, if it's going to play behind closed doors, then you've sort of relaxed the rules for lockdown. You have to. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then you've got like thousands and thousands of people have not been to a pub for fucking 4 or 5 months.
Yeah.
So you might as well send them to the ground instead of packing up all the pubs, and it's just going to cause riots, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think, is it Norway or Sweden, someone like that? Where's that FC Michelin from?
I think it's Denmark, I think, isn't it?
It's Denmark. I mean, apparently they've built fucking live TVs outside there, so you can pull up in your car.
Fucking hell.
They're doing. I mean, it's not going to go down very well, is it, without fucking passing on this virus sort of thing? But football can't be played behind closed doors. It's not the same without the fans.
Yeah.
I mean, what the money the fans bring in, and it doesn't touch the club anymore. It doesn't. Yeah. It's the TV rights, your sponsorship deals, and like City. I mean, it got to the point where I think they were parts of planes were fucking sponsoring them so they can buy players. You know, at millions of pounds. So us fans now, we just keep the clubs ticking in terms of atmosphere and trying to drive a team on.
Yeah,
but it wouldn't be the same. It won't be the same.
I'm sure. I think you posted a comment earlier on one of the chats. We're doing this Hall of Fame thing for the Premier League.
Yeah.
Obviously, you said Alan Shearer was obviously the Newcastle Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Alan Shearer and who else? Because obviously you can have 2 from Newcastle.
From Newcastle, I'm going to say Alan Shearer and Shay Given.
Shay Given.
I even named my first son after him. First name Shay, obviously not. Yeah. Listen, Shay Given was a phenomenal goalkeeper. Phenomenal. You know, we've got a list of players that we could use. You know, Ben Arthur, Lauren Robert. I even like Shola Amiobi. He weren't a massive goal scorer, but he was Geordie through and through, wasn't
he? Yeah.
For me, Shearer and Shay Given. I don't think, to be honest, I'm not saying Shay Given were the best goalkeeper in the Premier League. That'd be wrong to say with the likes of Schmeichel and the rest that we've had, but he's certainly up there in that bracket.
Yeah. There was a big shout for Peter Beardsley as well.
Well, it'd be wrong to use Peter, wouldn't it, with what's happened in the allegations and the sacking of the club. I don't think I can use. Listen, he was a great player. So were
Yeah.
Kevin Keegan, Malcolm McDonald. Listen, they were all fucking great players. But I can only go off current from my time till still now, from what I've seen as a Newcastle, and like I said, I don't think if you asked any Geordie that question, I think Shearer would be number one. I'd be very surprised if he wasn't. But like I said, for me, Shea Given and Shearer, without doubt.
Shea Given and Shearer. Okay. Special mention for Steve Harper in that conversation. Just put it out there.
Yeah, listen, Steve Harper, another one loyal to the club. Steve Harper was a very good goalkeeper, just at the wrong time. I don't think you could get through. Anyone could get past Shea. Do you know what I mean? There's no way you drop it. Even if Shea conceded 5 the week before, you're still not going to drop him the week after. Do you know what I mean? He was in a average side and pulled off. Saved us from a few relegations, if I'm honest with you.
Well, I know, yeah. So, I mean, is there any player in the Premier League who you'd buy right now to be your number 9? If money wasn't an option.
If money were an option, you're going to go straight to Harry Kane.
Harry Kane,
Straight
straight
to
away.
Harry Kane. I mean, he's an English lad. He's got a fucking bag. He's shit in August. Let's be honest. But after that, I think
How much do you think it cost?
Well, apparently Tottenham mentioned 200 million on it. It could be anything, couldn't it? It could be anything. I mean, if I'm honest with you, 100 million Harry Kane. His wages are going to be ridiculous, aren't they? You're talking 250 to maybe 300 grand a week. It's just the way the world is moving for top class players. But you're going to be guaranteed goals from that guy. I don't think you could. I mean, you've got Aguero. Don't get me wrong, he's phenomenal, but he's at an age now where you're not going to get 3-4 years of the same out of him. So you've got to be looking at Harry Kane. I mean, how old is he? 20? Is he 25, 26, something like that?
Last time I checked, I think he was 26. Is he 27 this year? I think he was. Yeah, 27 in July.
So you're talking 5 top years out of him, aren't you? And if you get the right player around him, we've got St. Maxim. He needs someone who can put the ball in the box.
He's a character, in by the way, isn't he? Fucking
yeah, unbelievable. You know what? I went down for a pre-season friendly. St. Etienne we played start of the season, and he'd only signed the day before, him and Jethro Williams. I'd love him to come back, by the way. Fantastic player. And it was in the club shop getting a lot of shirt, and one of the guys said, "Watch out for this fella, St. Maxim." And they said, "All you've got to do is put the ball over the top of the last man and watch him go." And I thought, how many times have you heard something like that? And I'm telling you now, he come on for the last 10 minutes, and I've never seen anyone fucking move as fast in my life. He was, and I was there on the day Ben Arthur did that unbelievable run against Fulham. I think he only had about 5 touches and took the whole fucking team on. I've never seen anything like it. He's if this takeover don't happen, he's gone at the end of this season.
You think?
Yeah. There's no two ways about it. I think they'd be looking at a top 4 club, maybe someone in Europe. Honestly, he hasn't got the big name yet because he's got fuck all around him he does all the hard work, and he's putting it on a plate for Gillinton who couldn't hit a fucking barn door. Do you know what I mean? So he's not going to be in the papers week in, week out. Do you know what I mean? Unless he does something himself. But he looks a tiny number like.
You paid 45 million for Joe Linton, didn't you?
Fucking hell. I'd ask for me fucking refund if I were them.
So Sports Direct don't do refunds; they do credit notes.
When he came, I mean, he played on the pre-season over there, and he scored. I mean, fucking hell, it was lucky. I think he come off his shin after he fell over, and you just think give him a chance. He's only a young kid, He's from over in Brazil. He's played in Germany, and he's not an out-and-out striker because for Schalke or Hoffenheim, I think we got him from. He was a left winger.
Was he?
Yeah, and he's come in as a number 9. He's took a big burden on his shirt with that number 9. I mean, how long do you give him? Do you know what I mean? How long do you give someone? I know you look back at people like David De Gea, took him a season to kick in. And now look at him; he's fucking one of the best goalkeepers in the world. I'm not saying Joelinton's going to be the best striker in the world because he's not. But how long do you give someone before you think, enough's enough? You shite,
Yeah, I mean, 45 million. I mean,
It's our transfer record broke as well. That on someone who's hit fucking 2 goals. We've waited for years and years and years to splash the cash, and the deal was done. Apparently, the deal was there to keep Rafa in. Rafa said he didn't want him. He's not worthy of it. He could use that 45 and get 2 or 3, whatever you can get for that sort of money, sort of thing, and be half decent. But instead, Rafa walked. 45 million was spent. Steve Bruce said he'd give the all clear for it. I'm fucking sure you did. It were already done. And he's been told he's got to play week in, week out, and he's shit.
45 million though. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You could have bought Callum Wilson with that and got changed. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You could have, you could have got fucking Origi. All right, I know what I'm saying. You're going to have to be building something for him to leave. I mean, he's the super sub. He's the modern day Solskjaer, and he coming off the bench, popping the winner in. But why would you leave a club who's getting Champions League finals and hard to beat in the Premier League, if I'm honest with you at the minute? So you've got to promise him week in, week out and give him a decent wage, but he'll do a job. He would do a job. Again, Callum Wilson would, but how long do you keep him fit? He's in 3, he's out for 4 months, and it's a shame. But yeah, I'd get the Longstaff brothers tied down to contracts because they're on a free at the end of this season, which is fucking bizarre. Because the only 2 in midfield, apart from Shelby, that you've only got half of someone that can create and tackle.
Yeah, didn't I read he was on like fucking like £100 a week or something, or £1,000 a week?
Yeah, Matty Longstaff. I mean, I don't know. It's all paper talk, innit? But £850 a week apparently he's on. He's still on an academy contract. I mean, this is a kid, who's come off the bench, scored a winner against United at the Gallagher end. Geordie lad. And if clubs like Juventus and stuff like Real Madrid I mean, I'm only going off what the papers are saying. I don't know. Are sniffing around him on a free transfer. Surely you should be sat down thinking, hang on a minute, we're looking what's going on here.
I mean, obviously with the takeover happening, are those brothers in danger of being pushed to the wayside?
I don't think they would be, if I'm honest with you, because they want to. Listen, you've got to keep some home spirit in that team. You can go in there, throw millions and millions at it, and it go to shit. It's a big club and it's a big burden, and one bad game, and if the money's spent on you, those fans are on your back instantly. I mean, I feel for Joelinton. Like I said, he's the biggest we've spent on, and he's. Even if he goes and scores 2 every week, they're not going to start liking him. He's already crossed that bridge. So if you're taking the likes of Paul Dummett and the 2 Geordie lads, the Longstaff brothers out of it, you need that in the camp to say this is how the club is. This is what the fans want. Do you know what I mean? If you take that away from it, I mean, like when who's it took over United, David Moyes, and he took away all Fergie's background staff. It was inevitable to fucking crumble.
Yeah.
Because you took away those that knew the club.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And the same, because we've not got that in terms of management, and because I think we've had fucking more managers than not dinners. So if you start taking them out of the team,
what's your thoughts on Mitrovic?
Do you know what I like me, Troy. He was a good player, but he was unreliable, massively unreliable. I mean, he could get you a goal. He struggled in the Premier League. I mean, for Newcastle, it's like I said, it's a big club, and he just didn't have that in the tank to live up to, playing for a big club and doing it week in, week out. He let his emotions go to his head. So 1 minute he's having a great game, next minute he's fucking walking off the pitch, he's sent off. I mean, it works for him at Fulham. No disrespect to Fulham, they've got a great history, but he's the big man in the team. He's the biggest name in the team. Do you know what I mean? The crowd aren't on the back, so they like that, and he's scoring goals week in, week out. If you look at our team at the time when we had Mitrovic, we had Wijnaldum. He's a Champions League winner now. Moussa Sissoko sort of thing, who's Champions League fucking running up with Tottenham.
Yeah.
So he was never that number one.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah. Right, no problem, pal. Appreciate your time. If you got any thoughts on the COVID-19 situation and want to speak to the people watching, then the floor is now yours.
No, it's everyone just stay safe, keep to the guidelines. Do you know what I mean? Let's not fuck about. The more we stay away from people, the quicker this comes to an end, and we can all get back to the way we are. And massive shout out to the NHS and the Tesco work. Well, like not just Tesco's, but any grocery store people. Massive shout out to you, and for keeping everyone safe and fed.
Good shout. Cheers. Thanks, Alex.
All right, mate.
I'll catch you later.
Bye bye.